It's afternoon edition of Nihal and Sarah until 4 o'clock, and it is Monday, so it's time for TV Club on 5 Live. Newsbeat's Sinead Garvan is with us, as always, and alongside her is Buzzfeed's TV editor, Scott Bryan. Afternoon.
Afternoon.
Sinead, what are we talking about this week?
We're going to be talking about what the TV moment of the past year has been, and also look ahead to Series 3 of The Trip.
Right, it's a big subject, TV moment of the year. Okay, Scott,
Do we do this kind of now
quarterly?
Yeah, is that what happens? I always thought that we say to December these moments, but now there's such a golden age of television, as we're often being told, that now it wouldn't be possible to do it in December. You have to do it every quarterly. Is that what's happening, Sinead?
Well, this is for the BAFTA, the TV BAFTAs that are coming up next month. So they've introduced this new category and they've picked out a few of the biggest TV moments, and we can now vote for it.
And Scott, you were a judge on that, weren't you?
Yeah, I mean,
you get all the great jobs.
Do you get in a room, or is it all via email?
It's all in a room. So it's quite weird. They get sort of all of the different TV editors from all of the different titles into this room. And essentially, you just get given a long list, which was about 100 moments. And of course, some of them are incredibly dark and grisly bits from TV shows and murders and so forth. And then you're trying to then also put them into a short list of, Ed Balls dancing and really light-hearted moments. And I think, one of the challenges was just trying to make sure that it was all really quite balanced, essentially, to show the full spectrum of just the absurd, wonderful world of TV that we currently all watch.
And did it start off with you all being very kind of diplomatic and then get ruder and ruder?
Yes, absolutely. Like you would not believe. Towards the end, I was defending...
I've been in those rooms.
I was going to say, spoken like a man who's been on a few
I have been on a few judging panels in my time,
So, Scott, what are you reviewing for us this week?
Also, Doctor Who, which is on this Saturday, so I'm going to try to not reveal too many spoilers. And also Better Call Saul, which is on Netflix from tomorrow, along with, as well, The Trip as well.
Okay. And we want, as always, your recommendations. We want you to sell it to me. A couple of weeks ago, Charlie got in touch with us with this inspired suggestion.
Like Forged in Fire is a competition where they're challenged to create a knife or sword, normally using repurposing everyday metallic objects, recycling and upcycling. It brings the lost skills of blacksmithing to the forefront and teaches new skills to create a weapon, normally of historic significance. Think of it as a Great British Bake Off with knives.
Now, I have a bit in my script here which is very much like a sell. Forged in Fire is made by Outpost Entertainment. It's on the History Channel. It's available on Now TV. There you go, got that out of the way. Here are some of the Season 1 contestants, right, talking about the dangers of making their own swords.
When you get cut, the best thing to do, put some super glue on the cut, hold it, blow on it, you're ready to go. I trade knives for anything, including stitches when I get hurt in the shop.
So you ever cut your beard?
Couple times.
You lose a little bit of hair on your head.
It never gets longer than this because I'm always burning it back.
On your arms. Actually, you lose a lot of hair on your arms. One of the craziest injuries I've ever had, got my tooth chipped. I was lighting my propane forge. It went out. I tried to restart it a little too early. The propane blew up, blew the door off the front of the forge, and a piece of my fire brick come flying over and hit me right in my toofer.
Now, I'm thinking not many of them have Hillary Clinton bumper stickers. Listening to those guys. This is, Sinead, this is everything you want from TV, surely.
Well, I can't decide whether I love it or I think it's absolute nonsense. I'm kind of in two minds.
Go with the former. Go with the former, Sinead.
Perfect combination of both.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Because sometimes I was watching it and I did get quite into it, so I obviously do like it. Yes. But I was just thinking, oh my goodness, what are these people doing? And then when they test the weapons at the end, I actually quite like that bit. It's quite satisfying.
The brass pipe chop and the fish slice.
Yeah, and when you feel a bit bad for them when it doesn't work, it's just like Mary Berry saying you've got a soggy bottom, isn't it?
It is Great British Bake Off with lots of testosterone.
But also I like the
no
expert guys. They're so interesting. So the one with like the incredible moustache and just what their like job titles are. So you've got weapons recreation expert, an edged weapons expert. Like how do you become one of those people? Like how does that happen? When did you learn that you could go and do this? It's just mad.
It is a lot of facial hair, isn't it? It is, and I thought that aspect of it was actually really worth recreating. I thought it was spectacularly edited, and I thought that kind of thing at the top where they introduced these guys just really, really worked. I mean, Scott, you're a fan of the Bake Off. Would you be interested in watching Forged in Fire?
I mean, I think it really shows because you see all of these spin-offs like the Great Pottery Throwdown and the Great British Sewing Bee of basically the same time of format but with something else being done as the activity. And it's something about the addictive power of just seeing just enthusiasts to the extreme trying to do something in the confines of their own home and then being able to compete it in a kind of open arena. I think it's I'm not sure whether the fact that they're going into weaponry, whether this shows like maybe they're running out of ideas in terms of concepts and what it is.
Perfect for the History Channel because this
absolutely.
This is an art form, of course, that is sadly, dying out. So the fact that it is on this particular channel, look, it wouldn't make much sense on BBC Two, it has to be said, at 9 p.m. On a Sunday night. But here on the History Channel, it makes a lot of sense. And there is a great artistry to what they are doing. So while it sounds like, guys with big beards going outstanding and being like super guys.
And there is plenty of that.
There's huge amounts of that. But then, they're making swords. So however much I'm sure Stephen Fry could put his hand to anything, it would sound a bit odd if there was a group for Stephen Fry's enunciating every word while talking about these amazing
marvellous
weapons.
katana you've made.
Yes, exactly, that kind of thing. So, it does what it says on the tin, does it very well.
Yeah, it does indeed. And I shall be, for one, watching it more. But they are actually quite diverse guys. They sort of set them up, don't they, in this comedy way at the start. But they are actually quite diverse. Like the guy that was actually a poet as well, as being a man that could make a sword out of a chainsaw.
Did we get any of his pottery
No,
on tape? Pottery, not pottery,
unfortunately
poetry,
not.
I should say. He probably does pottery as well. Anyway, we need to move on from Forged in Fire, which is on, I said it originally, it's
History
on
Channel.
Now, isn't it? History Channel. But it's made by Outpost Entertainment. It's on the History Channel. It's available on Now TV. Now, we heard from two of the stars of the new Atlantic series, Gorilla. That was at 2:00. Now, if you missed that interview with Frida Pinto and Babu Cisse, you can catch it on the BBC Radio iPlayer right now. After the interview, I asked them for their sell it to me suggestions. Babu suggested the documentary OJ Made in America.
If ever I've seen a documentary that deals with the complexity of race relations and politics and color and place in society and ultimately murder, public murder almost, it blew my mind. It really did. I would say that if you can find the time, it's 9 hours of hell, but definitely, is it 9 hours, 7.5, worth visiting, just to educate and broaden the mind.
Okay, just writing down for the PR people there, 9 hours of hell. Right, okay, what a great selling point there. I think you'll find. Frida?
Yes, if you want to really engage in a lot of tears and crying and emotions, I would direct you towards This Is Us. This is the new NBC drama. I'm not sure what it plays on over here.
Channel 4, I think.
Channel 4,
yes,
right?
it's going to be there.
It's called This Is Us, and it stars Milo Ventimiglia and Mandy Moore. And it's a multi-generational story. And it's just, without giving away too much, the twist is right at the end of episode 1. Because at the beginning you'd be like, oh, wait a minute, I'm watching about a couple of people celebrating their birthday on the same day, and then you realize what you're actually watching. For me, it was it's 18 episodes, but I had to watch the entire series in 1 week because I was interviewing Milo.
How did you have time for that?
Oh, till 2 a.m. every morning. I just had to keep watching them, binge watched it.
You say that now, but you did that with Narcos, didn't you? You found the time for Narcos.
Yeah, and
Let's
the
be
OA.
honest. Yeah, there you go. So that's Babu Cisse and Frida Pinto.
And people
their
just do
thoughts.
nothing.
Yeah.
I can watch
You
people
also
just do
did
nothing
that.
at any time.
This Is Us we haven't watched yet. We haven't reviewed it. So that is quite an interesting one. I must get in touch, get you to get in touch with us about the ones that you like. You send us a text 85058. If This Is Us is something that you're loving as well, let us know. Afternoon edition at bbc.co.uk, or you can call us on the all-new number 0808 5909 693.
Okay, now, Better Call Saul. The Breaking Bad sequel returns to Netflix tomorrow for its 3rd series. Scott, you've been watching this for us. What did you think?
Well, I mean, it's quite unlike any other TV show that I think is available. Essentially, it's kind of a prequel to Breaking Bad. So there's a lot of kind of references and it's very much for the fans, I think, of Breaking Bad, because there's so many sort of little clues, links to characters, links to storylines that then become part of one of the biggest shows of the last decade. But it pretty much stands out on its own drama. And I say that there are sequences in this drama which is unlike any other on TV. It's so incredibly confident of itself. Without being kind of too spoilerific about the episode that drops on Netflix tomorrow, there's a sequence that features one of the characters just literally taking a car apart, just basically stripping the whole car to the floor, and it's kind of sped up. And I know that might sound really boring, but genuinely,
Not if you're a Top Gear fan, presumably.
Well, it is utterly captivating. It really, really is captivating. My only criticism, it's not really a criticism, is the fact that if you want to watch this drama, I utterly do not recommend you start with the series. It's not something that is accessible if you haven't watched Better Call Saul before. I recommend starting back with season 1, possibly even starting with Breaking Bad and watching all of those series, and then
like
getting to this.
a whole year of your life.
The whole year of your life. But I think it's like you need that context, you need that understanding to really get that level of enjoyment. It's a bit like...
Isn't that a failure?
Well, it could be, but it's also very much a show of like how the show is made. It's on premium cable in the US. It's on Netflix on the UK. You know, these shows don't have to have the multi-million amount of viewers that other shows on, let's say, Line of Duty needs to have on BBC One. So it allows to have that deeper level of complexity, and I think the critics love it.
Exactly, and also when you come off the back of something that has a pedigree like Breaking Bad, then you're quid's in, really, aren't you?
Oh, totally. I think it's also one of those things where, you know, if you manage to make a drama that is so deep and so well understood by the viewers, then years, decades along the line, it will still be talked about and referred to. So even though it might not get millions of people watching now, it might be a drama that's by word of mouth and people saying, oh, it's fantastic. Then, you know, it will become one of those legendary dramas like Goodfellas, like The Sopranos, you know, that you will tell other people about endlessly.
Sinead, in terms of sequels, is this a Joey or is this a Frasier?
I think it's a prequel, isn't it?
It is a prequel. Yeah.
Prequel, sorry.
Yeah, to be honest, I think this is a lesson in how to do prequels, and I think you can definitely get into it without having seen Breaking Bad. But what is so lovely about this is, for anyone who was like obsessed with Breaking Bad, you know, this show, it's got the same kind of like pace about it, and you know, the sort of like the darkness of it, if you like. But then some characters from Breaking Bad like pop up, and that's very exciting. I think it's really good. I think it's really good prequel, and you know, it's always a bit of a worry or a danger when you sort of try and touch anything that's been as, you know, hugely popular as Breaking Bad. But I think they've done it. I don't know, I've got some friends who are just are finding it a bit tough, but I think that's because they wanted it to be as good as Breaking Bad, but like it won't be. I mean, you know, that's just an absolute one-off, isn't it, really? But I think it's great.
I don't know if this text is real or not. It says, sell it to me. You guys should be watching Finding Bigfoot on the Discovery Channel. 4 people roaming around the Pacific Northwest of America looking for an animal that doesn't exist.
Incredible.
Have you seen it, Scott?
No, I'm not, but I am now.
Do you think it's real? It's got to be real.
It has to be.
Do you know what?
You couldn't make that up.
They should make a TV show, reality TV show, about the commissioning meetings when shows like that get commissioned. Because can you imagine?
Yeah.
All the ideas that got passed over,
yes,
so that became a TV show.
Finding Bigfoot.
I mean, that's extraordinary.
We've hit gold with this one, Bigfoot. No one's done it.
How do you win?
Here's all the money.
That is a story.
Somebody else has texted to say, I agree
about
with
the journey, Scott. It's about the journey.
I agree with Frida Pinto. This Is Us is absolutely amazing. Prepare to have your heart pulled out of your chest, then for someone to go back in to check if they've missed anything. Cried at just about every episode. The last time I cried at TV was when Take That split in the 90s. What a legendary text. 85058. Sell it to us. Those two, you have to go a long way to beat those. Let's have a chat about ITV's new documentary series. It is called The Detectives Inside the Major Crimes Team, and it starts on Thursday. And now it follows detectives at Lancashire Police, and Steve Warr is the executive producer of the series and the director of Raw Cut TV, which made the show for ITV, and it also made the award-winning series The Murder of Sadie Hartley last year. Steve, very good afternoon. Thanks for being with us.
Hi, thanks for inviting us on.
It's a really, really, really interesting documentary. You're going back to Lancashire Police. For those of us that watched The Murder of Sadie Hartley, which was a totally gripping documentary, Lancashire Police were a very impressive force to watch in action. They obviously had a very positive conclusion for that. So is that why you went back on them? Had you developed good relationships with them?
I think the story's more the other way around.
Right.
We were filming the series that's out on Thursday, when in the last week of filming, this extraordinary murder of poor Sadie started to unfold, and we decided to extend our filming period, and just kept with the story for as long as it took, really. And ITV, because the trial for that was finished a lot sooner than some of the other stories that we'd been filming. The Sadie Hartley story came out before the series that's due to go out now.
That's really interesting. So I suppose in some ways that's one of the things that makes what you do unique, because you are following the course of real life trials and court cases and people.
It's both extraordinary and quite humbling at the same time. Many times it can be frustrating because you don't know where things are going to lead. So, our office is full of stories that have started and not got anywhere, or stories that have started and still not been finished. And it's just very nice when things do eventually come together and the police get a result.
Well, let's listen to a clip of the show. This is Detective Superintendent Andrew Murphy talking about their investigation into the death of Marcin Pavlov.
The key line for us is to get hold of Sebastian, who was originally referred to as Roback. And you know what makes me even more concerned is the fact that the suspects that we've currently got in custody are all really worried about telling us about this individual. So that it demonstrates some real fear within that group. 2 witnesses say that he's responsible for the murder of Marcin. This guy's obviously deadly violent. So the plan moving forward, Nick, is for us to have a manhunt with regard to Rob, whatever you call him, Sebastian. OK. Nick, if you can get him...
I'll do my best.
That would be great. OK, thanks, everyone.
The man arrested was ultimately convicted of manslaughter. Steve, a huge challenge to make a show like this because of the legal difficulties. How much do they affect the production?
Well, they're everything, really, because what you show on television is obviously constrained by what's happened in the courts. You have to tailor what you've shot depending on what happens at the end, because you can't call innocent people guilty just because the police have arrested them. And, you have to show what people are actually guilty of. No, the legal constraints that we work in oversee everything that we do, really, for the programme.
Trust is such an important thing, isn't it? And by the time you start filming, you must have built up quite a bond of trust with the police.
It's a very difficult thing for detectives to allow a film crew in to their working lives. They do lots of things that are quite secret. They hold lots of confidences. They follow up lots of leads that don't go anywhere. And it was amazing that we were allowed absolute access to everything that they were doing on the basis that they would trust us to make a programme that accurately reflected what they did when we'd finished.
Tell us a little bit about the other cases that you follow, Steve, apart from the investigation into the death of Marcin Pavlov.
So it's the first episode is very much a story of our times and involves 2 stories. There's the stabbing of Marcin, but then we also follow a story about the date rape in her own home of a young mother. And she meets somebody on a dating website, invites him back to her house, and has safe words and all sorts of safeguards set up with her neighbours and friends. And it all goes very, very wrong for her. And eventually she phones the police saying that she's been raped. And the police, have to immerse themselves in her world and find out who this person is, where he is. And then it becomes a question of how do you build a case against somebody when, there's only 2 people involved in that incident. One saying one thing, one saying something that's not completely different, apart from the matter of consent and whether it was rape or not. And the professionalism of the police and the consideration that they gave to this poor lady was something to behold. It was remarkable, really.
Steve, in this series that you've made, the detectives inside the major crimes team, What do we learn about their work? After all, we are inundated, are we not, with dramatic interpretations of what detectives do, whether it be on one side of the Atlantic or indeed in this side of the Atlantic, Line of Duty, of course, being the latest of many. What do we learn that we don't know?
Well, I think we've tried to make the programmes as much like a drama as possible, and so we've kept the voiceover to an utter minimum, which, of course, you have no voiceover when you're watching a drama because the characters tell you everything that you need that's going on. So in many ways, we're imitating drama. Drama is imitating real life. But I think the one thing you learn is the amount of modern techniques and the sheer size of a modern serious crime investigation is absolutely huge. The detectives genuinely don't go home. They go without sleep. They put the job before their families until they've solved the case, which is, it's a bit of a hackneyed phrase from every drama that people have been watching from the 70s. But we found that to be true. And some of the modern techniques they have, phone tracking, automatic number plate recognition services, CCTV cameras, the internet, and all those sort of things that perhaps you are quite dull and you don't see in the dramas, are absolutely meat and drink to the modern detective. But they're all incredibly time-consuming. If you think how many calls you make from your mobile phone, on a drama you might get oh yes, they've phoned X. But in reality, they've probably phoned 50 or 100 or more people in that week. And somebody has to troll through who are those people, who are those numbers, where were they phoning from, what did they say, what were their texts like.
Mm-hmm. And Steve, you were the first producer, weren't you, to mix police video with observational documentary on X, guys. Okay, you're smiling. Does that feel like a very long time ago now?
It does, and in how much I miss sunny Manchester as well. Yes, I was, and it's always been an area that's fascinated me. And I've spent a long time working with the police, and they fascinate me as well.
Why?
Because I think they do extraordinary jobs, and they're quite normal people underneath it.
Yeah.
And they do something very difficult at many times. They do get put under extreme pressure. They do get abused and shouted at an awful lot. And as certainly people in London are remembering today, they can have incredibly tragic consequences for them as well. And to follow them is quite a privilege, and it can be quite fun as well.
What are their release valves, considering that quite often they see the worst in humanity?
Well, I suppose the hackneyed response would be would be alcohol and violent sports, and I think that's probably not just hackneyed. I think that's probably true.
And in terms of things like Serial and Making a Murderer, and all of these things now that seem to follow it step by step, a little bit like what you do, but in a fictional sense, why do you think they've become so popular?
I think, drama imitates life, and people are very interested but also very concerned what happens when the worst happens to them or people that they know. So they can lead their lives and think quite safely, thinking, oh my God, if that happened to me or a friend of mine or something like that, what would I do, in that situation? You look at Broadchurch and the popularity of that. Yes, it's very extreme, but I think everybody's been in that sort of situation. What would happen if my child was killed or my child died? What would happen if I was raped or a friend of mine was raped? What would happen to the village? What would happen to the community? How would I react? And I think they reflect modern concerns.
Well, it's really interesting that you say that, because the way that they chose to do the very first episode of this new season, which was that, I don't know if you've seen it, but it was a step-by-step, moment-by-moment recreation of a woman who has been raped, phoning the police and telling them, and then the whole procedure that happens from there. It was about a good 10 minutes of the first part of the programme, but it had a huge impact.
Sure, and I would say after watching it happen in reality,
correct,
they got it very near right, actually, and certainly in the programme we've done with this date rape, a lot of the procedures are identical, and then it's a question of how on earth do you ever trap somebody when it's one person's word against another person's word.
Thank you so much for talking to us, Steve. Really, really interesting stuff, and it's a great series. The Detectives Inside the Major Crimes Team starts on Thursday on ITV, and that's Steve Warr, executive producer of the series.
You're listening to a BBC 5 Live podcast.
If you like this, you might also like this. Flintoff, Savage and the Ping Pong Guy.
Is everybody's hunger in sport different?
I was hungry. I wanted to be the best. For me, you win or that's it.
To find out more about our range of podcasts, click, tap or swipe bbc.co.uk/5live.
So, TV news. Sinead, what do you have for us?
Yes, well, first up, we haven't even seen the third series of Poldark yet, but it's been confirmed that a fourth series has been commissioned. So Aidan Turner, Poldark himself, announced the news at the BFI and Radio Times Television Festival over the weekend, and he says they'll start filming Series 4 in September. And, of course, the third series will be on air in June.
Oh, he's got to go back in the gym then.
Yeah.
Spent all that time eating kebabs and having gâteaux, and now he's like, got to get a six-pack ready again.
Well, apart from that, which is clearly the enduring popularity of it as far as Nihal is concerned, but what is the success
It's my
of
screensaver.
Poldark
I don't judge yours.
down to? Scott, what do you think?
It's a strange one. I because I remember that it just became a massive phenomenon with the first series, and everyone was talking about it. And I mean, from my interpretation, I got from not watching the show that Aidan Turner must have been topless throughout it. So I just thought, okay, I will watch the show. And then I was just surprised how slow it is, how twee it is. But these things are always massive, massive hits, and I think it's just purely because it's kind of like. It's not a criticism of like switch off TV. Like you can just forget about all of your problems and think about the problems that they had in that era in Cornwall and talk to them at great length about,
Mines
the tin mine. Yeah, tin mine industry, So it's all of the case. But I think it's also like endless material. Like I know some friends who've read the books, and like with a new series that they'll be doing, they're only on book 4 or 5. There's about 15, 16 of them. So hello.
Yeah. So no chance of that ending anytime soon. In fact, we might get another Poldark, mightn't we? Feasibly, if Aidan Turner has enough of going to the gym every month for the next 20 years.
Only reason to watch a costume drama if there's a zombie, a vampire, and an alien involved in it.
Nonsense.
At some point.
Dangerous Liaisons. I challenge you not to have loved that.
Were there zombies, aliens?
No, there was Glenn Close and one of the best actors of all time, whose name escapes me. Remind me, Scott. Who was the male lead in Dangerous Liaisons? You're too young. John Malkovich. Got it. Yeah. John Malkovich. That's a period drama, and that is sexy stuff. It's great.
Maybe it's just TV period drama, and I can't get my head around it at all.
You need to watch it. Speaking of which,
yes,
Maggie of the Smith. So. A Downton Abbey movie. What are you saying?
We've been talking about
Downtown
this for...
Downtown would be downtown.
We've been talking about this for ages, all these rumours about whether they're going to turn it into a movie, and kind of any time you see any of the cast like on a red carpet for anything else, they're like, and they're like, yeah, maybe a movie's going to happen, we all really want it. Well, Dame Maggie Smith is just like, nah, not having it. She's basically said she thinks if they turned it into a film, it would be squeezing it dry. And she says that the meandering plot lines would not translate well into a film. So while everyone else is very excited about the prospect of it, she's just...
Well, Julian Fellows could channel some of that anger he feels towards mumbling actors into writing more... channel that power.
Never say that about Downton.
Lord
Fellows.
Fellows.
Hear every word of Downton.
I don't know if you remember her on Graham Norton a while ago, and he asked her, are you glad that Downton Abbey's over? And she's like, yes. she's kind of just seemingly done with it all.
If you don't want your question answered honestly, don't ask Maggie Smith, I think.
But what I'm slightly confused about is the fact that Downton Abbey already on TV is a movie length each week. So the fact of you're essentially paying £11 to not see a sofa advert. That's all you're doing.
I'd do that. I'd pay £11 not to see another one of those. And Scott, BAFTA's best TV moments of the year. So this is the thing we were talking about earlier. You've got to whittle them down and balance them from 100 to what? How many?
There's six overall, and it's kind of light and dark. There's Game of Thrones, one of the big battle scenes from the latter part. That's this epic multi-million-pound thing. There's the Late Show, because even though that is technically American and it's not really shown on TV, the category does allow American entrants. So they're putting Carpool Karaoke with Michelle Obama. There's Line of Duty, not from this series, but from the last episode of last year's series, which was just absolutely ridiculous. But I loved every single moment of it, and I don't want to plot spoil it in case you haven't watched it yet. Planet Earth 2, The Snakes versus Iguanas. Strictly Come Dancing, Ed Balls is doing Gangnam Style. And Who Do You Think You Are with Danny Dyer. It literally, how can you pick a favourite out of that?
Oh, Danny Dyer, I think for me. It's got to be up there. It's got to be up there. Listen, when you said the Late Show, did you mean the Late Show?
No.
They've got two. How dare they steal RTE's name?
There's the well, I know, but there's like the Late Show with Stephen Colbert, and then followed by the Late Show with James Corden, which is on at half midnight or half one in the morning.
Okay, I didn't know there was a double-barreled late.
It really is, yeah.
Is the nightly show still a thing?
I think 2 more weeks. And then,
that's still a thing.
And then I mean, it's bad. I think it's just one of those things where they just think, if we just replicate it, just like seeing all of these big stars doing it so well in the States and everyone's watching it on YouTube, we can just do it so easily over here. And I think it shows that it's taken years of lots of money and great talent to make.
But also, they're in Hollywood, so they've got like stars just on their doorstep. Like, we don't have those big names coming over. It kind of works with like Graham Norton because once a week, because you'll have the people in for a premiere or promoting a film. But every night, it's just, like last week with Joe Pasquale, and he's getting his nipple pierced, and he was doing all this like random stuff just to kind of create like a moment that people might like share. But it just kind of like just falls on its face, really.
Yikes. Let's talk about University Challenge, which never has to try very hard to be absolutely brilliant. What has been the enduring success of this year?
Well, I think Monk Mania, isn't it? Isn't it Monkman Mania? Yeah.
Now, explain for anybody who's not been watching University Challenge this year who he is and what he's like.
Yeah, so he's this Canadian student. I think he's about 29 or something, and he's got these amazing facial expressions whenever he answers the questions. Like, he's really clever as well, like super clever. I mean, they all are on there. He looks super
clever.
Yeah, and I don't know. I just think like people have just kind of really, really warmed to him, and like this sort of reaction on Twitter, like just calling him a legend, and like girls are like obsessing over him, and there's just like he's just become this huge like figure for the show, and he's actually said himself that he doesn't see himself as an object of desire after all of this, which is something that he's been called. So and then I also like the fact that he wore the same outfit for every recording, because it was one fewer thing for him to think about. He could just concentrate on the questions. But yeah, he's just been this like big star of the series, really. And of course the finals tonight or tomorrow night. Tonight, isn't it? 8 p.m.
I just love the fact that a quiz show as difficult as University Challenge is so universally loved in this country.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you get one question right, you think you're like the cleverest person, don't you?
Yeah, by country mile, yeah.
You feel really
proud.
Other
countries have an equivalent, a really, really impossible quiz show that everybody loves.
I don't know.
You would have thought they would have gone for that, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Or maybe it only works here. I do not know. It's very interesting.
Well, Mr. Monkman apparently has a long-term girlfriend who's a law professor in Beijing. I can imagine the Chinese have an equivalent, but they don't call it University Challenge. It's got stuff we know anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, how come the rest of you don't know this stuff is the Chinese version of University Challenge.
Well, it would be really remiss of us this Monday on TV Club not to have a chat about Doctor Who, because it returns to BBC One on Saturday. And Scott, you are one of the few people to have seen it.
Ooh,
so, no pressure about the spoilers. And you know what people are like that like Doctor Who.
Yeah,
but what was it like?
I mean, I think I think Doctor Who's going through quite a strange moment at the moment. I think everyone's looking very much to the future in terms of who will be the next Doctor who will be, which direction will the show be taking in once Stephen Moffat leaves. What will the show end up being? Because the last couple of series, I think, have been critically popular, but not necessarily having the ratings, even on catch-up, that the BBC would have hoped for. And I think there's just the feeling of, before we get to see all of these changes, there's another series before that. But what's the surprising thing, not going into too much detail, is how much of this episode that is coming up this Saturday is a complete, not just with a new sidekick, Pearl Mackie, who plays Bill. It's just the fact that the entire show has had a complete and utter refresh. Everything is back to where it was before with, I'd say it's probably the biggest refresh that I've seen since probably Rose, when they brought the show back with Christopher Eccleston back in 2005, 2006.
Wow.
Like, they've tried to make it as accessible as possible. So if you've not watched the last 2-3 series, or not since Matt Smith, and you sort of gave up during Peter Capaldi, you'll be able to completely immerse yourself back in for that. And I think for me personally, I find that really surprising. It's not what I was necessarily expecting, but if it means that more people will watch Doctor Who as a result, then so be it.
Oh, perfect. I might get involved actually, because the last series I was religiously attuned into was Tom Baker, I think. So I've missed quite a few, I think, in the remaining years.
So what? Well, I tell you what, let's let people have a little listen, and then we'll have a chat about it some more. This is one of the trailers that they've released for the new series.
The first time you meet him, he's funny. The second time, he's amazing. The third time, you realise he's the most dangerous man in the universe. He says he's a man of peace, but he walks in war. I'm having the time of my life, and I wouldn't miss it for the world, even if it kills me.
Why would Stephen Moffat, in his last series, change it so radically, Scott?
Well, this is something that I've been puzzling to myself. I think a lot of it is just that he said during the Q&A afterwards that a lot of it is you always have to be thinking about the future, and you always have to be bringing in new audiences. And the fact is, at the end of the day, I feel this is very much a kid's show. You don't want to be bogged down so many years dating back to previous series, that a kid who might be watching might not actually been born when the first series of this kind of particular plotline was mentioned. So I think part of it's about that. I think it's also been the kind of classic case with Doctor Who. It's been a show that's been very much about reinvention. It's been a show that's always, with a new Doctor, a new start. I think the thing that's surprising about me is that, for me, is that when Chris Chibnall comes in, who currently does Broadchurch, he will no doubt, with a new Doctor Who replacing Capaldi, will be reinventing the show entirely again. So you're kind of thinking, why are you refreshing a show now to only do it?
Is the criticism getting to him?
Possibly, but I mean, I think it's always been the case that he says that he's been quite used to criticism. I mean, it's been very much like Doctor Who and the fan bases, along with his other show, Sherlock, are shows that fans obsess over, argue about, kind of would take, a million different criticisms in regards to how they imagine their own Doctor Who universe should be. So I think it's always the case of when you try to tackle a show that's been so prestigious and so long-lasting, you are going to be facing this criticism. I think he's tried to shield himself from that quite a lot.
Both of you, who is the next Doctor going to be?
I would love it to be Olivia Colman.
Yeah, I was going to say the same.
Coleman,
if it's going to be a guy, Richard Ayoade is my favourite. But I don't know if he'd do it.
That'd be great.
But it's always a surprise. Like it's going to be somebody, I think, that no one will know, that it will come from completely left field. In the same way, like Matt Smith, when he came in and did the Doctor, he'd been on a couple of dramas. He'd been very big in theatre, but he hadn't been this household name. And I think that's what they'll do. They'll bring in somebody who we might not.
What was the security like, Scott, around you watching this preview? Did people turn up, with like a briefcase with a handcuff attached to it?
I mean, it wasn't. I wouldn't say that I had to surrender my phone and all of my personal belongings and take an oath of. But
you clearly didn't sign an NDA.
Well, they actually said that you are allowed to talk about the show, just don't reveal too much of the plot. So I don't think I have, and I think the general feeling is that it's a complete reinvention, and that's been a lot of the pressure that you might be seeing or hearing from the talent themselves. Is this is a refresh? Please, if you've left the show at any point, this is the time to come.
Can I just say that our listeners, as if we didn't know, are amazing. I put it up to you, and you've come back like troopers that you are, for Sell It To Me. Must watch. BBC's The Repair Shop. People mending things. Bizarrely compelling, says Peter. Halt and Catch Fire is brilliant, says Paul and Yuri. Designated Survivor. You're not the first to say that one.
Before,
yeah. Also, always knew Jack Bauer, Kiefer Sutherland would make a great president of the United States. Yes, clearly other people thought that too. Currently watching Gap Year on E4. Loving this tale of university students and a sad businessman from the UK travel across Asia together. Absolutely loving the story so far. And somebody else, watch Into the Badlands. Lots of samurai sword fighting, and Nick Frost has just joined the cast. bonus. Well, thank you all for that. You are terribly good to us. We're going to get some of you on very shortly.
We are indeed. Before that, though, we have Comedy of the Week this week. Sinead, talk us through it. What is it?
Yes, this is the third series of The Trip, which, if you don't know anything about this, it's Steve Coogan and Rob Brydon as kind of fictionalised versions of themselves. And in the first series, they're around the north of England. Steve Coogan is reviewing restaurants. So it's all kind of based around that, and Rob comes along with him. So this time they're in Spain. So you see like various bits of them, like chatting in cars in the restaurants, doing a bit of touring about, and then all the usual stuff, their impressions, and they're kind of like, at how they sort of laugh at themselves about their age, and like, they sort of poke fun at each other. And this series I'm really enjoyed. I've watched a couple of them now just before this, and it's just as good, just as funny.
Yeah, the relationship between them is great as well. And I love that we spoke to Steve Coogan, and he said at the beginning it was quite tricky because they didn't really, you want to push it with each other and be quite rude about each other, but you do want to then be able to work together again.
Yeah, be friends, yeah.
So they do. They do a great job. It's good fun.
All right, now we need to move on. Time for Sell It To Me. We have 3 amazing listeners who are going to try and sell it to you, Sinead.
Okay.
What is an amazing bit of telly that cannot be missed. And then we will, of course, all 3 of us be given the job of watching it over the next 7 days. Starting with Joanne in Airdrie. Joanne, good afternoon. You have 30 seconds, starting from now.
Okay, I want to sell you 13 Reasons Why. I didn't really know anything about the programme before I started watching it, and have spent the last 13 out of 36 hours watching the programme, completely obsessed by it, couldn't stop hitting the next episode. Such a gripping story, the characters are amazing, and it builds to an unbelievable finish. So you definitely have to get on it.
Okay, brilliant. I think you've done it there within the 30 seconds. Joanne in Airdrie, thank you.
House of Cards, who's saying that? Oh, it's Alex. Why House of Cards? Sell it to us.
House of Cards I've just absolutely binged on, and I can't wait for the new series to come out. It's really kind of one of those $1 million Netflix series that have cast Kevin Spacey, and it kind of cast him as this political, really dark side of politics. And one of his quotes, if it doesn't get you watching, it says, "The road to power is paved with hypocrisy and casualties and never regret." So it really plays that dark side of politics I absolutely love, so definitely watch it.
That's the time.
It is.
Alex,
it's a
good
great
sell.
series. Thanks, Alex.
And lastly, Am, who's going to say, Am, how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Right, you got 30 seconds starting from now.
Feud, Betty and Joan. It's not yet on, but I've just watched it in America. Amazing story about the legendary rivalry between Betty Davis, Joan Crawford, done by Ryan Murphy. Got Academy Award winners, Susan Sarandon and Jessica Lange. One of them will win the Emmy. The last episode about the Oscars was just amazing. The twists and turns of what actually happened on that Oscar night and the way Ryan Murphy's done it is just stunning. And just wait till it comes out on British TV.
Wow.
Wow. You know what, you guys? That is...
Oh, that's a good selection.
See, all of those I would just watch for pure enjoyment. Go for it. Sinead.
Oh, I think it's going to have to be 13 Reasons Why. There's been so much talk about this.
So
and
hyped.
Yeah. And Selena Gomez, of course, one of the executive producers on it. And I saw the other day that they all got little tattoos, her and the cast, to commemorate the show. But it's been so much talk about it, and people saying it's absolutely fantastic. And a story that actually is really important to be told on TV at the moment.
Okay, great. Thank you very
guys.
much indeed. Scott
Well done,
and Sinead,
Joanne.
thank you very much for joining us today. It's always lovely to hear from both of you. And Joanne, well done to you. That's what we're going to be watching then, 13 Reasons Why on Netflix.